Love it or hate it, the Nintendo 64 was one of the most influential gaming consoles of the mid to late 90s, and my choice to stay with Nintendo after the Super Nintendo would prove to be a life-changing decision. The N64 was, and remains to this day, my all-time favorite gaming console nearly 30 years later. But my love for it would take on a whole new meaning in mid-2009. This is when I learned that there were people out there taking this beloved TV-based console and making it into a straight-up portable system for play on the go, and it absolutely blew my mind. But it didn't take long to figure out that portable making was hard. And in the early days, information was critical and there just wasn't much of it out there. So there quickly became the common joke phrase, "Man, I wish someone would just make a step-by-step kit for this." Because that very idea was so grand and yet so far-fetched that it could only be thought of as funny. But times change, and there have been a lot of game-changing methods, techniques, and services to come available to average Joes like me. And as a result, after 15 years and 3 attempts later, I finally made that far-fetched joke of a dream a 64-bit reality. My name is Downing, and this is my 5th generation N64 portable DIY kit. Alright, so what's this kit all about? Let's take a deeper look at what this kit actually is, what's included, what's not included, kit options, and of course, the guide. First of all, what does this kit put together? The end product is a fully portable, original hardware, handheld, single-player Nintendo 64 with a standard jumper pack. It is by definition a true portable in that it has its own power supply and its own audio-video outputs, so it does not require a wall outlet or separate TV. And being handheld means that the controller is built right into the system, so no external controller is needed. So let's have a look at what goes into making this kit, and why I feel it's one of the best and most user-friendly console mods of its kind. This kit is based on a tested and true design. This very model has been in the works for over 2 years, with over 10 fully functional versions of it being built this past year alone. And with each one, small reliability and assembly improvements were made, which culminated into a full version 2 of pretty much every component under the hood. She's dialed in, and I'll show you why. First, what really sets this kit apart are the 9 custom PCBs that take over 90% of the guesswork out of the equation right off the bat. Designed by G-Man and Aurelio of 4Layer Tech, these boards handle everything from the power management to controls, and tasks that once took hours are now down to mere minutes. Second, no crazy board trimming. That's not happening here. And while there is still trimming of the main N64 motherboard required, I did everything I could to make sure it was minimal and as direct as possible with no insane rewiring after the fact. The casing is a 7-piece 3D printed enclosure that utilizes a unique plate and bracket system for a more modular assembly approach, and is a nice blend of aesthetics, functionality, and ease of assembly. The other big W is this kit's organization system that has been painstakingly simplified with the modder in mind. At the expense of my sanity, everything has been packaged by component type with individually numbered bags, with each part in the bag individually lettered. These numbers and letters will correspond with the online guide so that you will know exactly what part is supposed to go where. You're welcome. The last cool feature in the kit itself is a laminated vinyl decal, which currently has 4 standard artwork options to choose from and potentially custom versions down the road. However, the kit is not going to include the acrylic screen protector that the older versions of the portable had, just because it's a far more complicated process that's easy to mess up and just wouldn't be a practical addition. And fifth, as alluded to, a full online step-by-step guide that details the entire build process. This guide will be your Bible, as it is everything I wish I had and didn't even know I needed back when I started. I did mention there were a few things that I could not include, so let's jump into what we're going to need to source on your own. First off, the Nintendo 64 itself will not actually be included in the kit. I know it may seem like a contradiction in terms, but sourcing and preparing these old motherboards would be a monumental task to do in any kind of quantity. Also not included are the 3 18650 batteries needed to power the unit. Tools and consumables like wire, solder, pliers, screwdrivers, soldering irons, and such will also need to be supplied by the builder. But again, I've compiled a list of what I would recommend as well as tools that I know will work well for the project. And lastly, there are a couple of limitations due to the nature of this home-based console going portable. During the early stages of the design process, there were a couple of judgment calls I had to make. So these calls had to come at the expense of a few features. The 2 biggest being no expansion pack, so not 100% compatible with the full library of games, and the unit only being single player. The full explanation and reasoning for the choices, as well as a full spec list, is included in the description. I've spent hundreds of hours on this design, and 100 more hours on the packaging and development of this kit, and I've had help from some of the finest modders in the world to bring this N64 kit from concept to reality. And aside from some supply chain scares and some market uncertainty, the air is cleared enough that I'm finally ready to take this to Kickstarter. Please stop by and consider making a pledge, because even though these kits will still be available if the Kickstarter isn't successful, the only way to make these kits cheaper is through a successful campaign. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions, and if you'd like more information about these kits and project updates, head over to downingsbasement.com or my social media channels listed below. Thank you for everything and for riding this roller coaster along with me. Happy modding!